Hi, my name is Maris Hawkins, and I teach elementary and middle grade Spanish in Washington, D.C. This criteria means that first and foremost, my students have to be able to understand and comprehend what the authentic resource is telling them. So I need to do work ahead of time to make sure that they're able to understand it. That could be with new words that they're going to encounter, or perhaps cultural information that they'll see in the resource. Some pre-reading activities that I do involves them looking at the title. So this was an article that they were going to read about a new football player, and he's from Chile. And so they're looking at this title and they're explaining what the title means. That also helps them not skip over what they're going to see. And then I took all of the words from the article and I put it into this word cloud. And so this allows them to focus on words that they know and that they're going to see frequently. Another thing that I think is important to talk about before you look at any authentic resource is the culture that students are going to encounter. So my students watch Street Foods Latin America in our class, which is a show on Netflix. And they looked at various aspects of the culture. So this was before an episode on Colombia, and I explained the different areas and regions that were important in this episode. And so we went over various places that they were going to see. So that also helped them understand more when we watched the actual video. Once students look at the actual resource, we can do a variety of things, but really just focusing on some of the main facts, such as who, what, when, where, why, things like that, or identifying the main idea, and then in a subsequent time, looking at some of the supporting details as well. So that's how I know that they understand it and comprehend it. After that, one thing that I like to do is use some graphic organizers to have them, again, start when they can start to analyze the resource. I've done some before and after analysis, Venn diagrams if we're using two resources in the class. Oh, and timelines as well, if we're looking at the news or something historical. Some during reading activities I do. This is a great one that I found from Laura Sexton, and that allows students to look at an infographic and then write a fact that they understand and move the arrow. And this allows students to express what they know. Some other things that I do to have students interpret and analyze is I love these word maps that people will do, and that allows students to connect different themes that they're learning. And so this is one that I did after students watched a couple of episodes of Street Food, and they put together this word map and word web to map out all the different themes that they were learning and connecting them as well as elaborating. Another thing that I've done after they've read something is have them write two true statements and then slightly alter another sentence to make it false. And then I'll read all of their sentences and they'll answer which one is false. And that is student input that they're getting, that they've written, and then it allows me to circle back and go over all of these topics again. Also, I've done a lot with Jamboard, a Google app, and it allows students to write either sticky notes or just type in anything. They can also include questions, and they can also include images. So I like this because it allows them to express a lot and use manipulatives in a more technologically friendly way. So one important part with authentic resources can help students develop their vocabulary, both for interpretive and presentational and interpersonal communication. I've found that sometimes there are words that the textbook might promote, but really when you look at the authentic resources, there are other words that are used which to me signals that those are the important words to teach. And so I know that that helps me guide what I'm going to teach to make sure that I'm teaching the students what is most frequently used and what they will encounter. And then the other thing that I think is important about using authentic resources is it gives kids confidence when I can say that this was made for someone who speaks the language and they feel successful with that, like they can understand it, which then means when they encounter a resource like that in their community or in another community, they feel more confident tackling a resource like that. The one thing that I think can be most powerful when you're starting to work with authentic resources is making sure that you find one or two good ones and sticking with those. The biggest mistake I made was trying to find as many as I could and then not doing as much of an in-depth study in each one, which meant that my students weren't getting exposed to them as much.